Good evening, one and all. Welcome back to Show Business. Half of us are not here, but they're running late, or at least one person is running late, and I'll let you guess when they show up. But as far as I know, we have a full crew in a staggered type format. But welcome back, happy 2024, all you box office show business lovers. I am
seriously
Charles, otherwise known as Sipo, and old school as ever. Joining me to screen right is Linzo. Linzo, what's going on, man?
Not much. I literally just got back from Dune 2, like 20 minutes before I hopped on this thing with you. So I'm doing all right, man. Good day so far. It's hard to be upset about that.
And I'm assuming it's good as far as you're concerned.
I mean, I've got some questions, some structural things. There are moments where I'm like, oh, they're here, but then I'm like, oh wait, they're not here. Wait, why are we here then? But we'll get into that later.
Well, yeah. As far as I didn't know this either, but apparently I have not seen it. But apparently it is the second of three. Dune is.
The ending is kind of ambiguous in terms of like, hey, we could continue this, we could not continue this. It's like one of those. It's like, you know, like how Starship Troopers ends. It's just like, we will fight and we will win. I mean, it's not saying it's that, but it's that kind of thing. Like, we could make a sequel, or you know, maybe you've seen enough from us. It's that kind of an ending. Like it could go either way.
Oh, so if they didn't make any money, they could have just walked away from it, is what you're saying?
No, yeah. I mean, actually, I did think of one little seed that they planted, like, with one little cameo from one actor that we can possibly talk about, maybe avoid for spoilers' sake. But they could stop here, and I wouldn't be too upset about it.
Okay, interesting. So to get to the business side of things, Dune is probably the first heavy hitter of 2024.
Cocaine Bear. Oh my god.
Yeah, in comparison to similar time frame movie releases. The funny thing, I had to list Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania because it did open to 103 million in, I think it was Valentine's Day weekend in February of 23. But after 2 weeks, Dune Part 2 and Ant-Man and the Wasp are very close to one another as far as total money earned. So Dune 2 made up that $20 million difference, and it's probably going to have stronger legs than Ant-Man and the Wasp, as it just got, like, I think it was 69% lower in week 2, and it just got progressively thinner.
Yeah. No, and like honestly, Dune's gonna have legs. People are hyped about this movie. People got Dune syndrome, man. And honestly, I said I'd be okay if they didn't do a third one. I want a third one. Like, you know, if Denise is still down, if this cast is still down, just keep going, guys. Like, just make it Star Trek. I want 9 parts of this. I want to see how weird and wild and horrible Paul Atreides can make this universe.
Is it incredibly detached from the first one, or is it?
It's like it feels like credits rolled and then this movie started 5 minutes after the first one ended. So like,
I like that.
This is like the perfect, like, let's just watch everything together. Like,
sorry, somebody joined the channel before we went live. Suarez, pardon. Welcome. Thank you. Cody, I actually wish I walked in knowing this was a middle chapter, so my experience could have been different. I got anxiety as it was wrapping up, thinking, "Oh fuck, this is it." That's pretty funny.
Yeah, that's fair.
Crawling chaos. Easy for you to say. Crawling chaos said, "I'm on Team Dune, but I did fall asleep in the cinema." Is that really a member of the team?
It's a really long movie, and like I said, like there's a couple of moments where how do I explain it? Because I don't want to give anything away too much, but it's like a character is like, I'm gonna do X, and like all these other characters like, oh,
that's a good movie.
X.
I really enjoyed X.
Well, yeah, X is a good movie.
I mean, people like Pearl more, but I think X is still pretty strong.
Oh yeah, but where's Maxine? Come on, what's going on with that?
A little time, a couple months.
Okay. So they spend a lot of time building this up, and like it's going to be a thing. It's going to be a big thing. They're going to spend a lot of time on this, and then like the scene ends, and the movie just progresses, and nothing happened. Hi, Chauncey.
Hi, Chauncey. We're live.
I watched your new thing.
Okay. Hello. My mom's in the background. She's visiting from Jersey. So if somebody walks by, I'm not haunted in here.
We could have reenacted Untrended.
Right.
I don't know. That Psyduck looks a little cursed. Like he wants my soul, I think. Like,
how are you doing,
I love
Chauncey?
Psyduck.
Oh, Psyduck's the best. Yeah.
How are you doing?
I'm okay. Just working and stuff, and took a little vacation. With my mom being here for the week, but kind of starting back up and whatnot. And then, Production Tales from Hell came out. So, just,
awesome.
And it was dope as hell.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, just, it's always interesting reading, like, I try not to read a lot of the comments because that was one of the things going into it. I was like, I don't know if I want all that attention from that, like, that many people. But it's been a really good response so far. So that's been cool. Yeah,
it's awesome. So we're currently talking about Dune, which is the heaviest hitter so far this year. And Lindsay was, without spoilers, if you can, because I have yet to watch it.
Have you seen it, Miss Chauncey?
Dune 2?
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen it yet.
Okay. We will be spoiler free then. Okay. Honestly, my biggest complaint about the movie is like there's a couple of times where it's like, oh, we're going here, but then they don't go there. It's like they spend a lot of time talking about doing something and then they just don't do it, and it was kind of distracting. It kind of left me lost. Like, where are we? Who are we with? Which part of the planet are we on? But then you'd kind of orient yourself and you'd be okay. But that's my biggest complaint.
So, do they leave things where they're going somewhere and then they don't not go there by the end of the
it's like
movie?
Paul's got to do this like trial to prove he's as cool as like everyone thinks he is, and they kind of just skip it. It's like, okay, I'm gonna go do trial time now, and then they just cut to a few days later and he passed the trial. It's like, okay. It's an odd choice. Yeah, exactly.
So it's doing well. It's already caught up to last year's big winner, which was Ant-Man Quantumania. But we can get to the big event of the weekend, which wasn't what was the movie that came out this weekend? It did pretty well. Shit, I'm so bad at this. Out of practice.
The Oscars?
The Oscars is the big one. Yeah, it was its first week. Oh, Kung Fu Panda. That was the new release. Okay. Yeah, I screwed up. Thank you, Trevor. But yeah, the big thing of Sunday. These 10 movies were nominated for Best Picture: American Fiction, Anatomy of a Fall, Barbie, The Holdovers, Killers of the Flower Moon, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, Poor Things, and The Zone of Interest. Lindsay, reiterate what you've seen, and then we'll get to Chauncey.
Barbenheimer and American Fiction. I've been really bad about seeing movies the last year or so.
So by Barbenheimer, you're saying you've seen both Barbie and Oppenheimer.
And Oppenheimer. Yeah, I saw the two of them. Yeah.
Okay, so 3 out of the 10. Chauncey?
Yeah, I know. I'm 30%.
I saw American Fiction, Oppenheimer, Barbie, Zone of Interest, Poor Things. I saw a bit of Maestro. I couldn't finish it, but I saw a bit of Maestro. And what's the other ones? Killers of the Flower Moon. I saw Killers of the Flower Moon.
My mom made fun of me for not saying the Killers of the Flower Moon. It's like, okay, Mom, you can flex on me.
And I saw bits of Past Lives.
Okay.
Another one that I was not,
The actual film critic here, seeing most of the movies.
Well done. You're not the first person I've heard that kind of said they turned off the Maestro, though. So I feel you on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, somebody else has said that Bradley Cooper seems kind of desperate for awards without, being
I think
so.
that's a little unfair, though. Most of them are. Like,
Yeah.
who doesn't? A lot of them do Oscar bait movies. You know, it's Master was an Oscar bait movie, but no one's above. None of them are above Oscar bait movie. We've seen a good amount of them do Oscar bait. It's just that his Oscar bait didn't necessarily pay off in. I mean, he got nominated. I mean, that's something he can say. It got nominated, but yeah, it didn't pan out. But I don't think it's because they're all making, oh, he's so desperate. You see it in his eyes when Killian was up there, and it's like, well, most of them will feel that way if they want an Oscar. I don't know why. I mean, I guess I understand why an Oscar is so coveted, but I'm also kind of like, yeah, most of them are whores for it. Sorry.
Yeah. No, no,
100%. Knocking it out of the park there, like. This is the award scenario where John Cena didn't even get dressed for it. Like, it's not really that prestigious, guys.
Yeah. So the actors, you mentioned Cillian Murphy winning Best Actor, Emma Stone, Best Actress. Supporting, it was RDJ and DJ Rudolph for The Holdovers and Oppenheimer, respectively. And Emma Stone was in. I'm sorry?
You said DJ Holdover?
Divine Joy Randolph?
Yeah.
Supporting actress in The Holdovers, which I have not seen that movie.
Okay, no, yeah.
DJ Divine Joy, sorry.
I'm with you now. Sorry. Okay. I was like, there's a music artist up for an Oscar? Like, I missed that.
But yeah, I am not familiar with The Holdovers. It only just came out here in England, so yeah. Director was Christopher Nolan, which that was his first Oscar, which is just more of our Oscars that important. The same thing. Hitchcock has never won an Oscar for direction. He only won a Lifetime Achievement Award thing for producing.
Yeah.
So are they that important to what we care about? Is a better rhetorical question.
I mean, Angela Bassett didn't even get the one she should have gotten. They ended up giving her a Governor's Award. And we know why they gave Jamie Lee Curtis. She wasn't even the best supporting actress in her own movie. She was good, but the girl, Stephanie, was way better. And it was more deserving of that. But I think they gave it to Jamie because it was like, well, what's the next Oscar one she's gonna get into? Because we know she does more of the horror type thing, and they don't respect horror at times. So it's like she's not gonna get up here again. Angela has a whole bunch of more times that Angela will get up here, which is crappy, but that's how they tend to vote. It was, and Denzel Washington got it for Training Day. He should have got it for like Malcolm X and other ones, but they gave it to him for Training Day, where he plays the crooked cop, bad guy, or whatever. It's more so like, well, we got to give it to him now. We got to give it to him eventually. Same thing with Leo. Someone don't like Leo. There's a lot of them who don't like
The Revenant of all of his films.
Right? Of all of his films. They're like, well, we got to do something because it's going to be really obvious if we don't.
Well, The Revenant was like, if we don't give it to him, he's literally going to kill himself for a role one of these days. So let's just do that before he goes too far.
Dice is saying they don't respect the horror here. Well, Jordan Peele did win Best Screenplay for Get Out, and The Exorcist won an award years ago.
So that's two. Oh. That's not bad. That's two.
It's
two
not
out
a
of
given.
90-something
It always
years.
has to be elevated.
Yeah.
I tried to make a case for Poor Things semi being horror, but no one wants to believe me.
Well, it's got roots in Frankenstein.
But people are like, that's not. I'm like, all right.
Yeah, there's some moments of that are uncomfortable, to say the absolute very least. Snooty horror. It stands corrected. Yeah.
Oh, Silence of the Lambs. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Right, Mr. Demi.
Okay. Yeah.
So, as a member of officiating crew, Chauncey, do you think that, like, you kind of mentioned it? I'm not saying that anything that you've taken part in personally, but do you think that type of politics plays into, like, I mean, we have all these IOU awards where, there are certain people that get screwed over. I've heard a lot of people say that Robert Downey Jr. really wasn't the best supporting actor, and it was kind of like, well, he's been around.
He should have got it for Chaplin years ago. They didn't want to give it to him
30
for
years
Chaplin.
ago.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, this is his third nomination. He finally gets to win. He was amazing in Chaplin. They didn't give it to him. I guess maybe because he was Hollywood's bad boy at the time. I don't know. But it was like, you know, it was one of those things. And yeah, I do think a little bit plays into IOUs. I think it depends on which group is voting too, because it's also nuanced, right? It's like if it's critics voting, it's usually who sent them the best boxes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Wow.
Shade. If it's members who are like your colleagues and stuff, then it gets a little bit more nuanced. I think part of it is the artistry. I think SAG and even the Academy, I think there's artistry there, BAFTA and things like that. I think, sorry, that's my cat.
He's trying to give his opinions.
But I do think part of it is a little bit of popularity too. And, you know, who's going to, who kind of's been around and maybe they might not get a chance to get it again. Like the reason why Viola Davis didn't get anything, you know, we saw the articles about that where people were like, oh, she always gonna get something. Like one of the voters literally in the Academy said, she always gets something, you know, and it's just like, okay, like, and
about Viola Davis and not Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep, right? No, I mean, there's bias, right?
Yeah.
So I think, I mean, nothing is without bias, you know, but I do think that some of them have more merit than others, or some of them, they work harder to be better at it. I don't necessarily think the Academy is there with that, and even the Grammys, definitely not. But like, I think SAG is probably the one that I think is probably more balanced. I mean, yeah, it's a little bit of popularity, but I think it's also fellow thespians and others who are coming together to be like, who did it best, you know?
Aren't both of you in SAG?
I'm not in
technically. I technically am. I think I owe them a lot of money, and
I
mean, not a lot of money. I can't remember if I paid my dues last year or not. That kind of has me, yeah. So like, it's that kind of scenario. But yeah, and technically, I'm in SAG. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to.
I think it depends. And when I threw shade, I did actually attend the African American Film Critics Award recently, and I actually thought out of all the ones I've been in the past, I do think their voting is one of the better ones because they don't give you a short list. It's not like this is a short list, this is all you got to vote for. You get to vote for whoever you want to put in there. And I really did appreciate that because I've been in other groups where they give you a short list after certain people have gotten to decide who's on that list. And then you kind of wonder if the person won or not, because they don't tell you how they tally it. And a lot of time it did feel like people were showing up at those places because got awards because they were the star that showed up. So, you know.
Do you guys remember the Emily in Paris fiasco with the
no, we're in the UK.
Globes a few years. Oh, sorry.
Oh,
that was
shout
a
out
good joke,
to the wife.
Like I'm pointing at. I'm trying to point at UCP, but it looks like I'm pointing at Chauncey. That's hilarious. But it was just a show. Like it was popular, but it wasn't that popular, and then it got nominated for everything. And so basically, a lot of people are just like, "Wait, no, hold on, no, that show didn't deserve anything." And it
but they gave really good gifts.
They did. They flew people out to set and like expensive
people
hotels.
Got to get flown out and got to stay in fancy hotels and things like that. And I would just say at this point, I think people have seen the drama within the critics community and all the award stuff or whatever. I would
save
just
that thought because we're going to
take most of that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, we're going to touch on the YouTuber critic drama to close this out. But Lindsay, you had this is relevant every year, it seems. The weighted system in which they vote for Best Picture?
Yeah, it's the ranked choice voting is what they do, which is both overly complicated, but also I don't know. I feel like the more I think about it, the older I get with it, like it definitely is probably a good thing. Like so, like if you guys don't know, and an audience and everyone, you rank all the movies that are up for Best Picture, 1 through 10, 1 through 9, 1 through 8, however many they are this year, it'd be 1 through 10. And then if one movie has 50% or more of all the votes, that's the winner. But if they're not there yet, they then redistribute all the ballots. Like, let's say Zone of Interest came in last place. I want to see Zone of Interest. I'm not trying to bag on Zone of Interest. Well, let's say everyone put that at number 10.
Sure.
They then that was the movie that was voted number 1 the least. They'd redistribute the Zone of Interest ballots based off of what was those ballots put in second place, and then they'd count again. If there's another movie that's got 50% or more, that movie wins, and they just kind of keep doing that until they have the winner finally. And why I think it's interesting is because it makes the movie that a lot of people have ranked highly the winner, as opposed to just the movie that everyone's talking about. But it also could be completely unnecessarily complicated. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think America should adopt that for politics.
Rank voting, yes.
Yes.
That's what other countries do, right?
Yeah.
Other countries, they do rank voting.
Our president would be under the age of 70 if that were the case. Sorry.
We wouldn't have to play a game of number wang every year. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. No politics.
It's my fault. I brought it in. Do you, other than Everything Everywhere All at Once, what do you think Jamie Lee Curtis would have gotten the IOU for? What was Oscar worthy in?
I don't think it's IOU. You have to think of the fact that she's been in Hollywood for so long, and she's got friends. People hang out and they're friends, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is finally a movie where she's going to get a nomination. Who knows the next one she's going to get? And I think there is an idea of she's been doing it for years. Maybe some people might think, horror doesn't get that much thing, and here's her chance. Let's give her this. Angela probably is going to be in another hit or something like that at some other time. We can give it to Angela later. Stephanie, I feel like her first name is Stephanie, the one who was her co-star and Everything All at Once, is young. She's going to have a few more chances to win. And it's like, people also got to realize Curtis is also a Nepo baby. It doesn't get brought up a lot, but she's been around since she was 12. A
lot of them are Nepo babies.
Yeah, she's been around. She's got long roots in there. And, there might be a thought process of, we don't know the next time she's going to get nominated. She's a great actress. Here's her chance. Let's give this, and it's not necessarily like a pity one. It's more like, it doesn't, the wrong thing about it, in my opinion, is that it doesn't look at the immediate performance, right? But it's not necessarily bad in the sense of like thinking about her longevity in her career. And here's one of the highest accolades she can get. Let's give it to her now, because when's the next role she's going to get that's going to give her this chance, But it sucks because it pushed Angela out of that, and the others, who in the immediate sense had a better chance with their immediate, performance.
Yeah, that's pardon. That's you stack the deck against yourself by doing that. First of all, it's not really best actor, actress, whatever. You're just this is a really good person over the course of their career. And we don't know if they're going to be making films ever again. And
it's not as catchy though as Best Actor.
So, like, the problem is, like, what if something drastic happens? I mean, like, they gave Heath Ledger a posthumous award for. Granted, I think his performance was phenomenal in Dark Knight. It's just, people get into accidents, people, whatever. If you play this, well, this person will be in something great eventually. You play that game enough, you're going to get burned by that mentality. And it just, you're not awarding the awards to the best people. You're really playing with fire doing that stuff. And I guess the crux of what I was asking was, what happens to these people that are like one and done? I mean, I don't know how many nominees that we just had maybe never get nominated again. And it's, I don't know. It's unfortunate.
Yeah. No, that's a good question, actually, about who's never going to get another chance again.
We don't know. I mean, nobody has a crystal ball.
That's true. I mean, no one saw Ke Huy Quan coming back last year with, again, Everywhere All at Once. And so, I mean, that was, but he also knocked it out of the park, I think. Like, that was one of my most heartwarming performances I've seen in like years in that movie.
Do both of you, do you think that Brendan Fraser got that because maybe they took him not being around for granted, and it was a solid performance? Do you think maybe that lapse in being in decent films kind of made it his award to lose for The Whale?
It's an interesting question. I haven't actually seen it, so I can't actually judge it too much.
Did he win?
Yeah.
No, Kwong won. Oh, he won. Kwong won supporting. I forgot.
Yeah, that's right. Supporting. Yes, correct.
I saw The Well. I thought it was good. You know, I will say that if you had any other actor, Brendan Fraser is just such a likable man.
Sure.
Like, he's just so likable. And so, I mean, Mummy fan here. Like, you know, it's like, I will watch him because he's likable. He was also in Killers of the Flower Moon randomly.
Oh, right, right.
And it was just like, wow, why is he in this? What? Okay, cool. I thought it was good. Do I think, who was he going against? He was going up against, I'm trying to think who was in his category. It was Elvis. That was the one that it was kind of between them two that year, right? Him and Austin Butler. I thought it could have been anyone's game, but yes, I do think part of that was probably Austin Butler's a young guy. He's just hitting his stride. He's going to have another chance. And he's already making moves to get another chance. We've seen that with some of the movies he's coming out with and set to be coming out with. I do think with Brendan Fraser, it was, I mean, knowing his story, knowing why he kind of faded out in the background because of the harassment and the treatment and things like that and whatnot, it was a comeback story. And I don't think it was undeserved. I thought I thought he gave a great performance in The Well. I also think he was somewhat playing Brendan Fraser if he was ever in that life situation. But there's nothing wrong with playing yourself. Christopher Walken does it all the time. You know, Tom Cruise does it all the time. There's nothing bad when Jeff Goldblum, nothing bad when a person plays themselves. It just means they're really natural on camera and they were cast correctly. So I thought it was deserving, but I do think part of it was weighted to the idea of he's been out of the spotlight for so long.
I can see that. Also, like, come on, whoever has the Dark Universe stuff going on, just get Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz and just have it be a continuation of the Mummy movies and just you know, there's your entire Dark Universe right there.
Just silently rejuvenate it, yeah.
Just like, don't even make a big deal about it. Just announce a Frankenstein movie with Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz in it. Everyone will see it.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that. I was kind of fired up about Russell Crowe as was it Van Helsing? Hyde, yeah, right.
Yeah. That was the best part of that Mummy movie, I think.
Yeah,
that scene. I
always get those. Oh, Nicolas Cage, another one, Chauncey, that kind of plays himself, even though I don't know who he is. So what the hell do I know? Yeah. So did I list the award winners? Yes, I did. Where is it? Why is this happening? No. American Fiction, Barbie, Holdovers, all right, Maestro, Oppenheimer, Past Lives, or Things Zone of Interest. So, did you guys see the Oscars?
Yeah,
I was at,
okay.
I was at work, so the sound was off, except for when I went over and turned it on for the in memoriam stuff. But so I was watching it while I was working. Yeah.
The one award that I like, either they're a really good actor and proved why they deserved the award, or was really struck by it. Emma Stone winning Best Actress for Poor Things. Her reaction was, she already had an Oscar for La La Land.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Yes. So her surprise kind of surprised me, and
well, she thought Lily was gonna get it. I think most people thought Lily was gonna get it.
I didn't even know Emma Stone was nominated because everyone was
clearly.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, just all I heard about was Lily Gladstone for that category like the last few months. So I didn't even know Emma Stone was nominated until.
I think if you go ahead.
No, go on, please.
I was saying, I think if you look at it with it could have been anyone's game between the two of them. Carey Mulligan was not getting that for Maestro, but like it could have been anyone's game between Lily and Emma, because I believe leading up to it, I think Emma won 2 and Lily won 2 different types of awards. I think BAFTAs and all that, and SAG or whatnot. So
who won the SAG?
Who did win the SAG? I think it was Emma who won the SAG. So, so I mean, and usually people pay attention to those sort of things leading up to the awards. yeah, so they pay attention to some of them leading up to the awards. So I think it could have been anyone's game. I think Lily, I would have voted for Lily out of the two, only because, how do I say that? I would have voted for Lily out of the two.
More shade coming.
I thought Emma did a great. I thought Emma did great. I liked Poor Things. I know Poor Things was very polarizing for some people. Some people said it was it was that and just over the top and just crazy, and other people was like, this is wonderful and whatnot. I was someone who, when I saw it, I really did enjoy it, you know. But I think it's easy to give performance. I think it's easy. I think this goes to the system of how we judge acting and who like in the Academy judges acting and stuff, right? I think it's very easy. I'm just going to say, I think it's very easy when white women play crazy and over the top for a lot of certain types to identify with that and to think, oh my gosh, this speaks to me. Like, you know what I mean? Like this role. I mean, I saw so many think pieces about Emma Stone's Poor Things character and how some people felt like they were finally seen on screen and blah, blah, blah. It's very easy for that when people can feel self-insert, you know, and to think, oh my gosh, she was so doing this and all this stuff and all this other, like her wink in the film and stuff. And I think it's very easy to say that's good acting. The problem, Lily Gladstone did a great job. But it wasn't the kind of acting people are used to for that, because it was more subtle. She wasn't in as much of the 3.5 hour film, but when she was on screen, she wasn't necessarily chewing the scenery, but in order to have that such an impactful presence that she had, took good acting skills, you know, to be the heart of the film. And the way she did it, that took skill. You know, I'm not saying just anybody could do Emma's part, but I'm saying there's not a lot of people who could do Lily's part that she did in Killer's Moon. I would say there's about 5 to 6 other actresses I could think that could have played in Poor Things and done very similar to Emma. Not saying that they aren't of high caliber, but Lily's performance was such a standout because of what she was able to do in a way that wasn't as overt as what we're used to when it comes to best actress or best person.
Certainly displayed more drama too.
Yeah. And I think that was hard for some of them to interpret because, you know, depending culturally and also other things, some people don't think a certain type of acting is of highest caliber than other types of acting. And, you know, it was, and that's, you know.
Comparing just those two, I mean, the one thing about Emma Stone's character in Poor Things, if anything, that character is very matter of fact, and there's not much drama to anything about. I mean, the character certainly has an arc, but I don't know if anything was too dramatic for the character themselves. And Hollywood seems to have a hard-on for people who are playing a less smart version of a human being. Because it happens. I mean, Tropic Thunder made fun of the fact that, you know,
you don't go full.
Right, exactly. And you brought something up that I certainly thought about, that considering how much, I mean, the chauvinist in me thinks, well, Emma Stone got naked a whole bunch, so, you know, there's one reason to nominate. But I really feel like people haven't brought up the fact that, you know, as far as the mind behind the body is concerned, that's an infant that's exploring things that are way above their brain age, and that kind of gets glossed over. And
that's, I mean, listen, because I mean, I don't disagree. I just, it's one of those things where their explanation was that her trajectory was fast. So it's kind of like before she knew it, she had the brain of like a 20-something year old. It might have started out like an infant, but because of science or whatever, she eventually was 20-some-year-old. So it wasn't like it was a kid having those experiences. That was the explanation. Now, I can go with that because, and I'm just going to get real, like, DC with it. Superboy is supposed to be a clone of Superman, right? One would argue that he has a girlfriend and everything like that. And technically he was like, 4 years old in real sense, but he was like aged faster. So he only had been around. So if you could be a fan of like Superboy and other situations where the thought process, the explanation given is that they have super speed in terms of development, that's your suspension of disbelief with her. I think it was a hard sell, and I understand why some people were hung up on the fact, especially because it was so sexually explicit.
Yeah.
With a lot of stuff.
I mean, I said this, Emily and I did a stream a couple of days ago, and I was like, I never thought I'd say this, but I got tired of seeing her naked body. Like, enough. We get it.
That gives me flashbacks to one of the 50 Shades movies where there's just a scene where they could, poor Dakota Johnson is just naked for literally no reason, just going about her day, having this conversation. I'm just like, okay, yeah, but like, I don't know, put a shirt on.
Can you be discreet about any of this, please? But yeah, I mean, it was interesting. Chauncey, did you feel like there was subtext for feminism in that movie?
Yeah, I mean, the reason why because I actually said it, because I was on the panel for the Dead Meat Awards, and one of the things is that they didn't include, which also is another one that I was not throwing shade at. They actually were pretty good with their panel. With how they decide. I gotta make sure so no one thinks I'm lumping two certain groups that I actually really liked within it. But
James is watching the stream being like, Chauncey.
No, not at all. But the thing was, there was a debate about Beau is Afraid and Poor Things, right? And not so much Beau is Afraid. Beau is Afraid, there was a fear that it would just sweep if they had included it in horror, because it was just so good, but it would have overshadowed stuff. But with Poor Things, I had said I kind of felt like it was horror in the sense of showing the horrendous plight of women in society because of the things she was going through. Like, it doesn't always have to be overtly danger, but in the sense, and that was my same argument with Beau is Afraid as well, where I was like, it's the fear of life. I mean, there's a lot of scary things. Anxiety, hello, it's really scary. It's just like, and the way it plays on that. So for me, with Poor Things, I thought there was a lot of subtext for feminism. Whether you agree with how it's displayed or not, I think they were trying to have it shown in a very unconventional way. And I actually, that's one of the reasons why I liked it. And I do think, honestly, the exploration of sex for her in such a blatant way was intentional. It was in a way, to me, to make people uncomfortable, because there is the idea of, why are you so uncomfortable about a woman exploring her sexuality? Why are you so uncomfortable with a woman deciding, maybe I do want to sell my body for a little bit because it's my body, I could do what I want with it. So I think there were some intentional things that, when people are uncomfortable, they don't like it though. So it's kind of like, but it was an interesting thing to say, why are you uncomfortable? What makes you uncomfortable about so much sex in this film? What's wrong with that?
No,
when it comes to a woman.
I absolutely agree. And I feel like, something that gets lost on a lot of audiences is, any type of art is supposed to challenge you. You shouldn't be too comfortable with everything you take in. I think I agree with everything you said. I think the interesting juxtaposition of Poor Things is the fact that everything you have to basically judge the Bella character in Poor Things is, for the most part, it's just based on her sexual adventures. Whereas I felt, I have people that disagree with me, that the subtext is about a woman finding that she's worth more than the men that she's with, or much more than the body, even though the film is showing you basically that. And the men in her life are terrible. I mean, even Willem Dafoe's character, I mean, he took a This isn't a spoiler. This is first act shit. But he takes someone who commits suicide and repurposes her body. And it's just, in the beginning, she's calling him God. You find out after like 15 minutes, his name is Godwin. Like that's kind of alarming to start. But between the Godwin character and Mark Ruffalo, Duncan, between those characters, like they show you the worst of what male figures can do in somebody's life, whether you want to interpret Godwin as a father, a guardian, what have you, and obviously Duncan, the possessive boyfriend who starts out as somebody who's just looking to have fun and then descends. And I think it's interesting. And I felt like there was a lot of subtext about a woman finding out that she's worth quite a bit more and finding her independence through that movie.
I want you guys know this is really making me want to watch the movie. That's why I'm being kind of quiet. Like, this is fascinating. Like, I can't believe I missed this. Like,
yeah, I don't like the cinematography. I don't like some of the gimmicks that they do with the lenses, but it's a fascinating movie. I would recommend it, and if you're not into it, tap out. But you're going to see nudity, a lot of it.
Yeah,
that's the one thing I can tell you. I think it was Jacob.
Someone actually mentioned that it wasn't. That was I was just saying that it wasn't supposed to be sexual. It wasn't supposed to be exploitative for like the viewer to get off on, but just to see it as a thing that is happening. And I think that also made people uncomfortable the way it was displayed, especially certain scenes with her and Mark Ruffalo. Like, it was just like, this is not hot at all. And it's just like, okay, but you're seeing that this is just her exploring and things like that. And so I do agree to a certain degree about the ending of, not the ending, but like her maybe getting to the point of saying, I don't need, she's beyond just what men can get out of her. But the funny thing is, I never thought throughout the movie that she even had that kind of thought process. Actually,
no,
I think she always had a dismissive thought process to the men around her. It was like, I like the way this feels. He can do that, so I'm going to let him do that. Like, it was just, and I think that's what is also a thing that can make people uncomfortable. Why is she okay with her own pleasure, So, I mean, we had it at one time. I mean, how many years ago was like where there was a whole controversy where, the studios were okay with it being shown men getting pleasured, but they weren't okay with women being shown getting pleasured, where it was like a guy, orally. And I mean, it's like that's deeper than just simply, it's more like, what is it about? I mean, the female orgasm was considered to be mythical for a lot of years.
Wait, it is? What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. So, and we all know what we're going through now in this country. So it's very much where I think the movie does some interesting things, and that's why
wait, guys, hold on. Like, let's be real here. It's the male orgasm. That's the real myth here. Okay, come on.
And we see those things. So I think the movie does an interesting job. The way it went about it, I think some people were thrown off, but I would ask people what threw them off necessarily. Like, what is it? Why are you uncomfortable? How many raunchy Animal House movies have we seen that are just over the top sexual, crude jokes, all of that? And those are considered classics. Yet you had this being so polarizing. And for the reasons of people jumping into this idea of, the only thing I thought was, like you were saying about the brain thing, but once they explained the advanced thing, I was like, okay, well, suspension of disbelief. We've done this for all these other movies. I'm going to accept what they're telling me. I can't say, oh no, because this could actually happen in real life. And I'm telling you that, everyone kept on that. But I think that for some people, that was an excuse for the real uneasiness of just how blatant and open they were with her sexual journey.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, like, it's such a interesting yet undefinable world between what year is it? They never tell you. It's the steampunk type ancient whatever where it snows.
I thought the movie was beautiful. I thought
you guys are making me want to watch this so much.
No, get on it. Like, seriously, get on it. And again, you'll know by the end of the first act if if you can handle it. I was fascinated. It was
Well,
it was
also just
bizarre,
sounds like a
but
great movie right now with like the world's like so weird about sex. Like, remember when Oppenheimer came out and everyone's like, that was the most unnecessary sex scene ever. I'm like, what? The 2 seconds of her like riding his dick, like from the perspective of his wife to like show like what it's like for her in that moment. No, that's entirely character driven, guys. What are we talking about here? Like,
I agree with you there. When he's being questioned, I get, but the scene where they're actually I get the symbolism because they're naked on chairs. I understand, like I get it. Was it? I mean, considering Christopher Nolan's past, was it necessary? Whatever. I
mean, I think the world needed to see Cillian, like, because that dude was jacked. But like,
can he stand up then? Like, I've seen him topless before. Let's go.
But also, like, there's that whole thing on Twitter or X or whatever the hell you want to call it that seems to come up once a month. It was like, is any sex scene ever justified? I'm like, well, it depends on, what's the intention? Is it steeped in character? Is it steeped in titillation? Like, how is it progressing the story? There's plenty of ways to do it. And this, and Poor Thing sounds like it nails it. So that's awesome. Like
the comparison I made between Poor Things and Killers of the Flower Moon, Emma Stone's character doesn't really, I mean, like you said, Chauncey, she doesn't really experience any drama or trauma, even though the character, we do get a moment where you experience the previous version of herself committing suicide, but that's really it. There's a moment where one of the people that she talks to shows her what poor people are like and the terrible things that are happening to them. And I felt like that was such a missed opportunity for some serious drama. And what she does and how that situation ends up, I just felt like we were robbed of some real, for a curious character. It was a really unique opportunity to see how her curious and maturing mind would handle that situation. That's something that I would hold against the movie, but I was so bizarrely curious for that movie. And the one thing I really, if I had to complain about something, this is really a nitpick. Actually, all of it is. The cinematography, I just didn't like the use of the fisheye lenses, but I just wish there was more drama to the that's the long and short of it. Do you know what I'm talking about, Chauncey?
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, there was, I feel like that scene was interesting and it created a very interesting fallout with her and Mark Ruffalo's character.
Yes.
And I understood that. It was interesting. It felt a little tacked on just because it was kind of like, not tacked on, because it was like she's experiencing all these cool things, and it's like, yeah, you have the privilege to explore like Alice in Wonderland and just be here, and not everyone can do that. And life's such a dream for you, right? You know, but it's not a dream for everybody. There isn't such a wonderful thing about this existence for everyone, and I do think that was, in a way, necessary. And I think they could have leaned into that a little bit more. I think even some of the parts when, she ends up where she ends up and starting to do her other job, or her job that she ends up having, you could have had a bit more, drama with that and things. But I think the movie didn't want to get too weighed down by that, because I did feel like it was kind of a Frankenstein meets Alice in Wonderland kind of vibe with it. And I was okay with that. I am a Alice in Wonderland fan, so I think I leaned into that. But I could see where the drama needed to be. But like I said, she did a great performance. She really leaned into it. But like I said, it's so easy to love. It's so easy for them to, it's almost, I'm not saying, now Poor Things, I don't think Poor Things was Oscar bait at all. I think they took a gamble with a lot of what they did with it to a certain degree. But I think the performance of what she did is very much up the Oscars alley. And I think that's was the issue when it came via versus Lily, because that kind of acting is a lot more subtle. You know,
Yeah.
even in the movie itself, it explains this idea, like Leonardo DiCaprio's character, he talks, he tries to fill silence with words, and even one of her things is like, we don't gotta say nothing, we could just sit here, you know. And that's a sort of thing where it's like, it's not as compelling for some people. Some people, they don't think something's good acting unless your person's chewing the scenery, you know, and hamming it up. And hers more subtle performance just wasn't what some of them were gonna be into, you know.
Yeah, I mean, to double down on what you said, the moment that I talked about with the poor folk, I didn't think about it until that scene happened, and yes, it did feel tacked on. And if you take that moment away, it's still the same movie as far as I'm concerned. What that scene did for me, other than the fight with Mark Ruffalo, you know, that, I mean, you could work around that and make that still happen in a different fashion. After that scene happened, I found myself thinking, oh, wow, I'd really be interested to know how she would experience all this as somebody who's poor, as somebody who needs the money. Like, it's that tacked on scene that really doesn't necessarily need to be in the movie, but it got me questioning certain aspects of the movie because it was, like you said, it felt, you know, shoot in there, tacked on. And Lindsay, did you get this when you were taking acting classes? The one thing that I was taught from the writing directing side, to judge an actor not by their words but their eyes. If they can make you, you know, to separate.
It's good to not be dead behind the eyes when you're on stage or when you're on camera. It doesn't really come up a whole lot, but it definitely here and there it is a way to be like, I was able to believe that because your eyes were selling it, or I didn't believe that because like you were smiling but like your eyes weren't smiling. It's that kind of thing where it's like you have to use your full body, your full face, but that's about it.
Yeah, I think in my acting for writers class or something, it was you know, just because you don't have lines doesn't mean that you don't have to not act, or you whatever the right way to say that is. I think
right. You have to be in the scene because you also are giving the person opposite of you something to play off of. And if you're just like a dead fish, I got a theater degree.
So we've all seen American Fiction then?
Yes. I've seen it, yes.
I felt like that was a movie that it's interesting that the you know, is nominated, because as far as the substance of the movie itself, for the most part they kind of take the piss out of the whole prestige of awards and what gets credit, or you know, what people are talking about without any sort of financial influence, that is. And it still was up for awards. Did anybody else read into that? Like, it seemed like it happened with Tropic Thunder too. Whenever the film industry kind of gets roasted, they're like, oh, well, let's put it up for award. I mean, granted, it wasn't about movies, it was about novels. But in the end, it was quite meta with the film of the story.
Well, filmmakers love to make movies about writers. You know, we'll never know why. Like,
and writers.
I honestly though, I thoroughly loved American Fiction. I said in our little group chat thing, it's like the saddest and funniest movie I've ever seen in my life. I think like the emotional whiplash it would give me within the same scene. So I'm like laughing my ass off while there's still tears streaming down my face. Like I hadn't had that in a while. So that alone made me love it. Plus, I just adore Jeffrey Wright and Sterling K. Brown, so love them too. But it is always funny how like they do really like to nominate things that are about storytelling or about writing or about movie making. Like that's why like Game of Thrones, like the last episode was absolutely terrible, but it still got nominated for a bunch of stuff because the final thesis of the show was, oh, it's all about the story. And anyway, getting off the rails, ranting about Game of Thrones 5 years later. But I also thought that it had a lot of really interesting things to say about writing, or at least I like, because who hasn't had that thought of like, oh man, if I didn't give a crap, I could write a book about that in one night and be a millionaire. And then the guy actually goes and does it. But it's I don't know. I enjoyed that.
When he gets selected to the panel where they're judging books from the previous year, and the white folk, they leave the room for lunch, and he has like a candid conversation with the other author. It was a really unique scene, and I really wish there was something more that came from that. And like not exactly, because the shot that follows that discussion is all you need to see in the images. The black authors on one side of the table and the white authors on the other, and it's 3-2, and you can they don't show you who voted what, but they do it with the image, and I thought that was very funny. Sorry, Chauncey, I kind of stepped over the segue there.
What? No, what?
American Fiction.
Oh yeah, no, I loved it. I loved American Fiction. I thought if RDJ didn't win, I wanted Sterling K to win for his performance, and I'm just so glad now he's an Oscar-nominated actor, because I think he's just amazing. He's done some great stuff even before American Fiction, so I hope this gets him even more like roles, because he is so great. And
he's in fantastic shape too, by the way.
Yes,
wow.
Yeah. Amazing. And it was, I agree with Lindsay that it had some moments where it was like, so it was dealing with generational trauma, like the idea of being in a family and having these things that are issues that kind of go through. I think that can touch a lot of people. It had a universal story underlying that zany part of him writing writing a book, and it, the whole thing. And what was interesting to me is that when some critics or some people who are reviewers or whatnot, whatever you want to call them, and critics or reviewers, some of them ended up not liking American Fiction, because their thought process was it should have been more about the zany, him getting caught up in the world of having to keep this shtick going, and the generational trauma and all that stuff was like a distraction from that. And I was like, and I just thought to myself, you missed the point of the movie. Like, you completely missed the point of the movie of why he felt like he needed to write that book in the first place. If you had been paying attention to that very important subplot that informed his actions, this was a character-driven film in the sense of this arc that this character was going through, and this unpacking of so much stuff he had been carrying around. That informed what he ended up doing with writing that book, that resentment and things like that. But then also questioning himself as to why he looked down on certain Black media that didn't fit his idea of what Blackness should be presented to the white folks of, and I think there was just so much in there, and it did it in such an interesting, which is why it won its screenplay, because it was so well adapted from the book. I think it's called Erasure, that it was about. And that it was adapted from. And so I just thought it did such a good job, because yes, there were some scenes like, and who he loses and stuff that touched me, because in losing someone in that position last year and stuff, and seeing that, and it was just, but still, like, being this artist, being this writer, and dealing with this stuff, it really just touched the chord, but did it in a way that was still really funny. And I just hope even more people discover it even more, because I mean, it actually did do well, but even more people need to watch this. And I loved what the writer director said, where he was like, instead of making one movie that's $200 million, how about you make 5 movies that's $40 million, or so on and so forth. Like, you can make these, you could put more great movies out there, and they don't have to blockbuster tentpole films, So I love that American Fiction got the attention it did, even if I think it only won 1 award. I'm glad it was part of the conversation, because there were some movies that did get snubbed that weren't part of the conversation. Someone said earlier in the chat, May, December, got snubbed. I mean, that's also debatable. Also,
all of it's debatable.
Origin got kind of snubbed. Color Purple had a horrible rollout because of the controversy that surrounded the Color Purple film. There are a lot of films that didn't get to be part of that conversation, and then this one did, and it was well deserved, I thought.
I think so. Do you think this is bad because it's third act stuff? Do you? I personally, it's been a while since I've seen it, so it's hard for me to. I just remember the lunch or the conversation they had judging when he has that candid discussion with the other author. I really don't think he looks inward until after that moment.
That was very pivotal. Pivotal because I think that was what was so also interesting, because I actually had a conversation with another reviewer critic who is a Black man, and his thing was he was somewhat dismissive of the movie because his thought process was he didn't finish it because he felt like this is doing the same thing that some of these movies do, where it feels like we're making a movie that features Black people that's just there to teach white people a lesson. And I felt like that was a total, because there are movies like that where you feel like you want to stand up and say, what did we learn, guys, about my culture, or something like that. But this wasn't one of those movies. This was a movie for everybody. And so I do think that there was a thing of, there's a very quick thing to dismiss certain types of cinema that happens to feature Black people because it doesn't fit what people think they want to show, but it's so nuanced, right?
Challenging in a different way, though, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things where even if it's so funny, because even when he was writing that scene from the book, and the actor
I love that scene
playing it out.
That was really
it was
well done.
Actually really good. Like there was some real drama there, and I was like, "This is actually really good." And I don't even read Hood Lit. That's what we call it, Hood Lit. I have family that reads Hood Lit. I'm not a fan of Hood Lit like that. Because I grew up in Newark. I'm like, I've been in the hood. I don't need to keep reading about it. But it was, but it was really good Hood Lit. I was like, this is really good. So it was that, I think it was meant to be good, to show that you can have quality content that has that subject matter. And I think he also had to go, because you also have to think about it. There was a class kind of clash there too. He comes from an upper middle class Black family. He had a maid for most of his time. There's a certain level of
they owned a beach house.
Yeah, they had a beach. We're gonna go to the beach house. There's a certain level of classism there, and that also plays into the intra-racial dynamics of what he looks down upon as a Black creator because of where he comes from. That maybe he does have some judgment towards people who come from working class families and things like that. I mean, I can say for myself, like, I like Issa Rae, who is the other actress in the other writer. And, when she had Insecure come out, a lot of people loved it, but not everybody loved it, because some of us felt like, well, I don't think this is necessarily universal Black experience, because it's kind of upper class type thing. And like, if you come from working class background, you're like, there's just certain issues I did not have and do not have in those things. But it's the problem of being a Black creator sometimes, where certain groups want you to speak for all of you. And it's like, we're not a monolith. Like, we're not a monolith. So there should be room for all of those kind of stories. I think that's what he was also trying to say when he, in his awards speech, he's like, there's room for all of our stories, there, which I thought was also important. Whether they'll listen or not, who knows? But
I think there's a lot of scenes in that movie that don't necessarily need to be Black or white. There's a lot of, like you said, a class. It is defined pretty starkly in that movie. Like, there's a scene on the beach where this uppity douche, I think is the term that they.
Oh, that was one of my favorite scenes in the whole.
Do you have a permit for that? Shut up! We're all saying shut up.
F you, then shut up. That was hilarious, and it was during one of the saddest scenes,
right,
in that film. And I was like, oh, I felt that, where you can find a way to laugh or that levity in such a devastating moment. I think we all can experience that, and have experienced that if you've ever lost a loved one. So
yeah, and it's because of that moment that our main character but needs money because of something that's happened.
Yeah.
And
we all need money.
Because they're tight with money. Does he decide to write this super profitable book? And it's unique how certain elements in our life dictate what the next step is, however terrible they feel at the moment. It's really interesting, especially because he looks down on, what is it, hoodlit? Is that what it's called?
Yeah. That's what we call hoodlit. Like hood literature.
Yeah, I figured as much. But
there was one little thing I really want to call out too, because we brought up the scene where it's like they're showing what he's writing as he's writing it. Like there's people acting it out. First of all, Keith David always a win, automatic 10 points. But also there's the most subtle little thing when it would switch between okay, so here's the book world and here's the real world. Like the sounds would drop out, and it was every time it was it just made my ears just feel so good, being I could feel the transition. This is so it was great. It was great stuff. It's just an incredibly well made movie.
Yeah.
What did Barbie win anything technically?
Song.
Hearts and Minds on the song. Yeah. Okay.
I have stuff to say about Barbie, but give me a second. I have my charger's about to die. Let me just 1 second, and I'll be right back.
All right, so we'll front load the Barbie discussion. It didn't. What one set design was it? Poor Things? No, that was a costume design.
Let me pull these up here.
I'm trying to think what the hell won set design, because that was the one that I thought Barbie had a lock.
Yeah, at one point California ran out of pink paint because they couldn't. they couldn't. They were just coloring everything pink
and bright blue.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Cheers, multi-topic talk. Dune 2 was a fun movie. Let's hope it makes money. Oh, it's we brought it up earlier. It is doing fine. This is opening weekend, and to compare it to Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania, this time by week 2 in Quantumania's release schedule, they're really close to each other, and Dune certainly has stronger legs than Ant-Man did, and Ant-Man had a stronger opening. So yeah, it's doing fine. And somebody else in the chat said it's going to hit 1 billion worldwide. That's kind of Grace says it won my heart. Barbara was based.
I mean, it kind of was.
I know, Gray. You zoned out for the Poor Things chat. I'm sorry. Yes, animated was Boy in Haran.
Oh yeah.
Do you know how hard it is for me to read that and not read heroin?
Oh really? How funny. What's hilarious is my dad actually randomly wanted to go see The Boy and the Heron. I'm like, Dad, you're watching anime when I'm not doing. All right, I can respect it. But Barbie did not win Best Production Design. It did go to Poor Things. I just looked it up here. The only thing it won was
wait. So Poor Things
won a lot.
Yeah.
Production design and costumes.
Mm-hmm. And Oppenheimer won editing, which I actually didn't think it was gonna get that, because so many people had stuff to say about, especially the beginning of the movie and the way he mixes his sound. I knew it wasn't gonna get sound, but it was just wow, okay, all right. I was not expecting that.
I'm very happy for the editor that got the award. Good for her. She's got an Oscar. But I agree. I wanted that movie to just breathe a little bit. It refused. It's no, I'm gonna keep editing, keep cut.
Yes, and it was that was surprising to me. I was like, oh, okay, really powerful.
Yes.
Did I miss the thing what y'all were saying about Barbie?
Oh no, I literally just looked up who won Best.
Yeah, I was curious to know if Barbie won set design, and it didn't.
I think it just won. It just won the song, and it wasn't for "I'm Just Ken."
Which
it was. but that's the thing, though, isn't it? I mean, I understood the conversation around how ironic it is that a movie about like woman empowerment and stuff, and the aspect that gets the highest highlight is the guy's character of Ken and everything. And I understood that, but it was also kind of like some people had such an issue with the fact that Greta did not get for Best Director. And I honestly was okay with her not getting Best Director because I was like, I think it's everything else that kind of makes this film, to be honest. There's certain, in terms of her getting edged out, like maybe if the other ones weren't there, she could have gotten at it. But I think Barbie was edged out of most of its categories, to be honest. I think there was just, in each category it was just a movie that was a bit better, or more than one movie that was just a bit better at what it was getting nominated for. It's just one of those things,
That's I haven't seen Zone of Interest or Anatomy of a Fall.
I really want to see Zone of Interest, but yeah, I haven't gotten around to that yet.
Zone of Interest, I agree that it did win sound, and I think it won sound, and I think that was deserved because of what it does. I am of the thought that Zone of Interest probably could have been a short film, but just because
shots fired. Okay.
No, not really shots fired. Not really shots. You don't know what I'm talking about when you watch it, and the decision that the director makes of how he films this entire movie.
Okay.
And with Zone of Interest, it's so powerful the way he films it, but that's the main thing that's powerful about it. And I don't think you needed an hour and a half of that. I think you could have done that in 30 minutes and had the same kind of impact, unfortunately. Or fortunately. I mean, yeah, you'll see what I'm talking about.
I feel that with movies all the time. What was that one that got
with the choice he made of how he filmed it? Yeah.
What was that movie like Manchester by the Lake or Manchester by the Sea a few years ago? I thought that should have been a short film. So I definitely feel you that some movies.
The Casey Affleck movie?
Yeah, you don't need the full feature length for some of these. Like,
I don't want to play into the meme, but as far as direction is concerned, Barbie. Listen, I think Barbie's my fourth favorite movie from last year.
Okay.
I feel like you kind of put walls around yourself when you're doing something about these literally plastic characters. I feel like something like that doesn't give a director much room to play with, especially considering how the cinematography and the set design and everything behind the mise en scène, is so bringing you in the world of toys. What else do I have to compare it to? Toy Story? Like it's like a much better version of what Toy Story did 20 years ago. But I feel like the characters don't have too much room because of what they are and what they are in that movie. And I don't know how you would. I don't know. I'm not a good director or have an eye for good direction. So what the hell do I know?
I mean, I think. Oh, go ahead. No, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say one thing that was weird to me about the Barbie movie was I could have sworn there was going to be a reveal at the end that Will Ferrell's character used to be a Ken, and then he made it to the real world, and then he just kind of became
funny.
Like I'm not complaining, like worst movie ever because it didn't do that, but that kind of threw me because he was like such a cartoon character, and then he was just a normal guy at the end. I don't know.
Maybe that might be in the sequel. They seem to be angling for.
Oh, maybe.
Yeah.
No sequel though. No. Oh, I don't want a sequel. That's horrible.
Mattel does.
I know, and that's what's so stupid. And they want to have something that seems to focus on Ken. I'm like, talk about capitalism just missing the point of its own product.
Yeah.
To have a movie that focuses on Ken. Like, I can't stand it. But I thought to me, Barbie gave me big Broadway, like old school movies, like from the 1950s and stuff, where basically the camera was put on the stage in front of the stage, and the actors and the performers did their thing, and they were allowed to do their thing, and the camera followed them doing their thing. Especially the "I'm Just Ken" scene, it was very much like that was all about the choreography and all of that, you know. And I feel like with Greta not getting director, first of all, there was a whole thing about, oh my gosh, you're cutting women out, when the woman who did Anatomy of the Fall is a woman who did that, and it was directed by a woman.
Not American. Don't hear
but
it.
whatever. That doesn't count. But it was one of those things where I just felt like there's certain movies where it's a director's film. Not every movie has to be a director's film to be really good.
Thank you for saying what I was trying to say in so fewer words.
But there's certain films that are director's film. Killers of the Flower Moon, director's film. Like just the choices Scorsese makes. Yes. Definitely Oppenheimer, director's film. Anatomy of Fall, director's film. You know, I wouldn't call Barbie a director's film. I think Greta she helped with the screenplay, right? They wrote some of that. You know, I have the screenplay. Like
she wrote with a man too, by the way.
Yeah, she wrote with her husband or whatever. And
that's cute, actually. I like that.
Yeah, she wrote with her husband and things like that.
Oh, sorry.
I forget his name, but it's like, and if you ever get a hold of the screenplay, there's actually like the way some of the direction there of like Cinema's back and things like that. Like we're back, like there's some really cool things to see their creative process. But I feel like a director's film, it is not, you know, and I think they wanted to give it to her because, you know, you got Greta fangirls and stuff like that, but I don't think this was a snub. And I think what ended up happening was that when people said snub, I think we started to lose the definition of what a snub is. Yes. You know, it was like snub means they should have been in there and they were just willfully ignored. That's not what happened with Barbie. Barbie got nominated for the things it should have gotten nominated for, in my opinion.
Thank you, Gray.
Baumbach. Yes, Noah Baumbach. I was like, what? No. Okay.
Just randomly here, Baumbach.
No, I was like, well, what did I miss? What's a Baumbach?
Well, yeah, I think I saw a quote from Robert De Niro who said, you know, once you get nominated, who wins, you know, just to be nominated is really a big deal. And coming from De Niro, somebody who has Oscars, like I tend to believe him. Yeah, I don't think he was just, you know, saying it because everybody says, oh, just to be nominated. I genuinely think he's being sincere when he says that because, like you said, Chauncey, there's not really such thing as a snub if you're already nominated. I mean, people are saying May December got snubbed and it didn't get nominated. So like there's
May December, Origin, Ava DuVernay's Origin. You know, there were a couple of things that people were like, damn, I didn't get anything. Like, you know, so.
Where's the Oscar for Megan? Mithrigan. Come on, guys.
Mithrigan. I think also it's a thing where when someone gets nominated for an Oscar, they are now an Oscar nominated actor or Oscar nominated director or whatever like that. That tends to hold some weight. And if they know if their representation knows what to do with that, you could definitely throw it out around. I mean, it's awesome to win it, but we already see Lily Gladstone has like 3 movies coming out that she's already attached to. Coleman Domingo, couple movies he's attached to. Sterling, a lot of them. Divine, like, oh, she won, but like, you know, there's a couple of them who and
Ke Quan, look how many stuff he's popped up in.
You know, they're going to get stuff if their representation knows what to do with it, because we've also seen ones where people win and they fall off the face of the planet.
Yeah,
you know, it's all about how their representation, like, you know, finagles that. But it is a big deal to get in the room and be part of that conversation. But it's definitely not, you know, like a blank check for many of them.
If your representation's good enough, you should be adding at least one more zero to your asking price. There's that.
The Oscar zero.
All right. So
actually reminds me of you guys Arrested Development fans. There's this quote
it's been so long.
Just this quote from David Cross talking about it, being like, look, guys, if you have a show that's winning all the awards from this, 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 and you can't market it, I don't think it's the show's problem. I think it's a marketing problem.
Yeah. No, it's true though. It's like if you're, I mean, we've seen a couple of those things that are like Emmy nominated and then they get canceled and things like that. And it's like, what happened?
Yeah.
Like, where's the marketing?
Well, one of my favorite examples is Life of Pi. The digital effects house that did the effects for him no longer existed when it came time for them to win an Oscar because they went under.
Wow.
They couldn't afford to stay in business. Yeah.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all about how they maneuver and where they go from there, you know. But yeah, it's I mean, I know some people, like, I feel like there's also that talk about with Oscars where it's like, if you're a blockbuster film, you won't get any attachment or whatever. And it's all for the artsy things that no one watches. And I don't really believe that. I do think there is a certain snobbery there, but I think it's or gatekeeping, but I think it's in some cases it's valid, the gatekeeping, because if that was the case, we'd have Fast and Furious movies kind of or something. If there was a thing where it wasn't like, okay, we have a certain caliber, and yeah, that doesn't mean that it has to be showing in all the theaters and making millions of billions of dollars to have merit, you know, and yeah.
I think we discussed it when they were talking about adding the money-making award, popular.
God, yeah, I remember.
You know,
Black Panther,
for awards like that, the money should be enough. But there's the MTV Movie Awards, which 15 years ago was a more entertaining show. Well, it probably is more entertaining for anybody watching it. And the People's Choice Awards is there for the People's Choice. I don't know why there's such a big deal about putting money-making movies or popular movies in the Oscars. I don't know why that's such a big deal.
Well, I think it was a ratings thing. They wanted more people to watch, and it was just like, maybe if we invite some of the more mainstream types. But I mean, I think even that was short-sighted, because usually when even the general public, even if they don't watch the Oscars live, when you hear about who's nominated, there is a kind of a push to kind of be like, well, let me see what that film is about. My mom, on the way over here, flying over to Jersey, she watched Barbie on the plane. She did not like it, but she watched it. And it was like, oh, let me see what this is about. She didn't like it, but she thought, oh, it's nominated. Let me, check it out,
Mm-hmm. Oh,
yeah. I forgot where I was going with that. That sucks. Oh, interesting.
It would be cool. I mean, like, how many big blockbuster movies, and I'm a sucker for big spectacle. I like most of the Marvel movies, but a lot of them aren't really on the level of filmmaking to really get up for an Oscar, I'd say.
No.
I
effects,
enjoy them.
Maybe. Sound design.
Yeah, effects, but a lot of them are just shot on green screen and the actors are just kind of in a void, and that's fine. I'm not, but
no.
Then you got a movie like again, American Fiction, where it's just two people in a room having a conversation and I'm crying my eyes out. It's two different styles of thing, and I'm not saying, and again, I'm not trying to criticize the Marvel movies, but they're just not always on that level. You know what I mean? And I say that sounds so pretentious. You're not on the level of an Oscar.
Well, I mean,
it's kind of different voting and viewpoint,
Yeah, and they have all the zeros. They have all the extra money.
And like you just said, there's the People's Choice. You already have it. What is her? The first one is my favorite.
Oh,
the first one of Jaws is my all-time favorite film, and I have the poster. I'm staring at it right now, and I kind of and two, and then I forget about the other ones.
I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4, because 4 is bad.
Yeah, like I said, I go
dying for.
1 and 2 are my faves. I don't pay attention to 3 and 4 like that. But yeah, I think it's a thing where it's just it's just one of those things where we have different awards for different things,
Right.
Did Jaws ever win an award? Did Jaws win an Academy Award?
It was probably the first.
Speaking of one of my favorite movies.
It might have been nominated for
Best Original Score, Editing, Sound Mixing, and Picture is what it was nominated for.
Best Picture.
Yeah.
Huh.
Wow. Well deserved. That was a good film. if there was
little known Steven Spielberg back then,
right? But
this kid,
I mean, right? And the shark mechanic didn't even work most of the film, and that's what
blessing
made
in
it.
disguise.
Blessing in disguise.
Also, you can't forget that shot of that. They have that shooting star in one scene, just going behind the star.
Oh,
Like,
yeah,
God, that's insane.
But look, like Guardians of the Galaxy was nominated. Exactly. The third volume was nominated for the Oscars. No one thought it had a snowball hell and chance of winning, but it got nominated. You know.
Yeah.
So Jaws did win 3 of those 4 Oscars: editing, score, and best sound. Yeah, go Jaws!
Yeah, I knew it was one of my favorite movies for a reason.
I didn't know it won anything. That's amazing. That makes me happy. It's totally deserved.
So another horror film. So it does.
Yeah.
They do respect it occasionally.
Occasionally.
Oh, wait. Dice rolling in the chat. There's a shooting star in 2 scenes? I thought it was just 1. They got 2 shooting stars in that movie? What the heck? Okay.
Yeah. All right. So cinematography got snubbed.
Yes. Well, did they know those shooting stars were coming? Did they just happen to catch up?
It's all in camera, baby. No CGI. All right. So the last topic of the night, we kind of alluded to it before. If you're watched on this channel, or if you've been around YouTube at all, your favorite movie gossip have been talking about it. It's kind of old news at this point, but Chris Stuckmann decided that he was going to make a video saying that he's not doing bad reviews anymore, and he kind of clickbaited, I guess. I don't know, because he made it seem like it was a Madam Web review, and there's plenty of people talking about it. Again, it happened about a month ago at this point. If you want the setup to this, by all means, look around. A lot of people have talked about it. I've seen some ridiculous takes, including my own. Thank you, patrons, for making me do that. But do you think that movie reviewers are beholden to anybody?
This is a really interesting question that I've actually been pondering a lot the last year. I'm not going to name names, but
I'll leave. I'll just leave right now.
Oh no! so the bar that I work out in Sierra Madre. And Sierra Madre is a nice area in LA. It's up in the mountains, so there's money and it's stuff like that. It's nice. I love working there. I adore the job. One of my regulars, though, is a producer for a filmmaker who I sometimes love and sometimes hate. And there are a lot of and he's produced literally every movie that director has ever made. And so on the off chance that it ever came up that I did YouTube stuff, once I found, I privated everything on my channel that I ever did, that I said anything mean about that director, because but maybe that was overkill, maybe that wasn't overkill, I don't know. I love this family, I love this guy who's the producer for these movies, and I sometimes love that director. Like, I really, 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 really do. But it's tough, because it's like, and like CP, you were kind of talking about beforehand, we don't need to go into it, but like, it's hard to give notes sometimes, because sometimes people don't respond well to the notes. You don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. You want to be cool, and then when like in like friendly, but when you start making your own stuff, you don't want people to like, to be like, oh, you criticize this in this movie, and now you're doing it in your movie. It's a weird realm to be in. So I completely get where Stuckmann's coming from, and I definitely support him. And I do agree also, because YouTube's overly negative sometimes. Maybe it would be good to have people trying to go out of the way to be positive. I don't know. Maybe that's just me, though. I don't know.
I think, well, there's a few things going on here, right? One, this is not the first time he said he was going to go easier on his reviews. I think he did it like as soon as he started saying, when he went back to film school, or when he went to film school, and there was talk of him coming out with his own indie film, a horror film. And I remember around that time, he was saying that because of what he was going through and what he had experienced in the actual filmmaking chair and things like that, he didn't want to kind of add to that for filmmakers anymore on a critic's level or whatever.
Sure.
Now I think, but this is why it's nuanced, right? So he's aiming to start being a filmmaker. Let's be real, right? He's aiming to be a filmmaker. He's transitioning.
Doesn't want to burn any bridges. Yeah.
I mean, it's nuanced, but it's very simple, right? He doesn't want to burn bridges. He's literally in probably talks. It's like less than 6 degrees of separation sometimes in this town, right? And it's like, if he was to go hardcore on somebody's stuff, and that's the person he might have to kind of collaborate with, or they're cool with the studio he's trying to get to do his film, you can never underestimate people's egos, right? That they might be like, F that guy. Like, he wants to get his movie made, tough if, because he talked crap about my movie. Look how hard it is, right? So I think in that sense, he's being very smart in that regard, because he is trying to make a transition to being probably a full-time filmmaker, to be real talk. Now, if he was someone like Roger Ebert or something, where it's like even though Roger Ebert did make movies.
I was just going to say a movie.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
It was terrible.
I was terrible.
But he
his main thing, the lion's share of his thing, though, was he stayed a film critic, right? And because that was what he was known for, I think that is something where, if that's what you're saying, this is what I'm staying in, this is the lane I'm staying in, I don't think it should be a thing where you feel like you can't give a negative review. One of Ebert's film books was "I Hate Movies" or something. Like, I hate
your movie sucks. Well, that was something, right? Yeah.
That was his thing, because that was what he was known for. He was a celebrity in the sense of his film criticisms. So it wasn't in this sense of like, I don't want to piss off so-and-so because I want to be able to go to the party with them later or get invited to have access, which is also a thing in some of these critics world, in the modern critic world. They're in terms of access, because some of them are more, I don't want to say star fuckers, but some of them are more like, they do this because they want to get close to celebrities. They
love that you avoided saying fuck before, but now you're like star fucker.
Well, it's one word. It's connected.
Oh yeah, okay.
Well, we're 2 hours in. YouTube doesn't care anymore. We can swear as much as we want.
But you get what I'm saying? Like, some of them, let's just be real. Some critics, their whole thing is to be in the room with the celebrities, and that's their main thing of wanting to do this kind of work, because this is their way. They couldn't be an actor, they couldn't be this, they couldn't be that, but they could be a critic, they could be a reviewer, and there they get to go on the red carpets and have the shows and get buttered up by the studios and stuff. And then you got some people who they're like, I don't care if I get access or not. This isn't about these celebrities, this is about the audience. That is my main concern. My main concern is telling you, the audience, my listener, my viewer, whether or not you should be spending your hard-earned money to watch this film, or giving your hard-earned time to watch this film.
Right.
And if your main thing is the film criticism, I don't think there needs to be censorship. I do agree, though, that some people, in the reverse sense, they use anger as clickbait. Their whole thing is to be mad all the time, whether something has merit or the MCU crap, all of that. Like, it's just about them being angry to get views. But in that same sense, you have ones on the other end who they won't say anything negative about particular studios that send them nice boxes during FYC time, for your consideration time. They won't say a negative thing about it, or they'll softball their criticism because they still want to get invited to the premieres. I think that's a problem too. I don't think that's what Stuckmann's doing, though. I honestly think his thing is he wants
to make sure he's there for Venom 3. He wants to be there day one.
But I think his thing is he wants to be a filmmaker, and he doesn't want to burn bridges anymore. But at the moment, his lion's share of his money is still being a critic. So he needs to put out the content for his YouTube until he thinks his money comes in from the other thing. So he's walking a tight line, and that's the position he's in, unfortunately, or fortunately.
So there's a couple of things. I heard somebody, how often do we say separate the art from the artist?
Me, never once in my entire life.
So that's like for usually some unsavory things that are happening in the real world. But why can't that be the case if you're criticizing a film that, I did it last year. Criticizing a film from somebody that you're friendly with or any of that. Why if they can't take film criticism from somebody that is known, for a lack of a better term, for being a film critic, how valuable is that friendship to begin with, or that relationship? And I know the financial aspect is certainly the bridge certainly needs to be built and not burned. But why, part two, why bring attention to the fact that you're not going to do negative reviews? How about you just don't bring it up and just, if somebody decided to figure out, oh, wait, he hasn't said anything negative recently, because the third part of this is somebody like him has gotten to where he is by being an online film reviewer. He wouldn't have the opportunities that he has right now without the YouTube career for 10 plus years. So it's kind of like an introverted biting the hand that feeds you type deal. I don't know. Like, there's so many different perspectives that I don't entirely disagree with anybody. It's really fascinating.
It actually reminds me of, do you guys know who James Rolfe is, the angry video game nerd?
Yes.
It reminds me of him back when the 2016 Ghostbusters came out, and he said he wasn't going to review the film because it wasn't his Ghostbusters, bloody blue, blah, 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 blah. We don't need to get into all that. But it's in a way, and maybe I'm overthinking this here. Maybe Stuckmann's not going for this at all, but it feels like a way to get attention on your channel and eyes on your channel while talking about a thing without actually talking about a thing. You know what I mean? So like maybe there's like a clickbaity angle to it, but Stuckmann's always, he's not my favorite, but like he does come across as earnest. So I it's not my first impulse to think that he would do something like that. I'm not sure. I don't really watch that much of his stuff, if we're being honest. So it's kind of hard to judge how he feels. But I do think he definitely wants to be a filmmaker, like you're saying, Chauncey, because I feel like he's been talking about that pretty much since he started YouTube, how he wants to be a filmmaker. He wants to be a movie guy. And that's fine. Like, that's a lot of us want. It's totally normal. So that just feels like he's trying to just transition to that. I can definitely agree with that.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. I feel like if you've been on a set, and I think all of us have, in some way, shape, or form, right? We've all been on a set.
Yeah.
Finishing a movie is compliment worthy. Anybody who's been on a film set, I've been to the bat twice and walked away. Finishing a movie is a big deal. And he probably knows that at this stage. But what if his movies suck? Like, what if this movie that he's hedging all his bets on isn't good?
I mean, this could go one of two ways. It can be an awesome talk to me. Those guys were YouTubers, or it can be Skinamarink.
Which has its fans. It has its fans.
Okay.
I said it. I didn't say I was one of them.
No shade. I hope that guy who does Skinamarink doesn't think I hate him, because it seems like every time I'm on a platform, I say something. But it's like, it could be one or two ways. I think I get what you're saying about like not biting the hand that feeds you, literally, because with him, he's able to be in the position he is because of the YouTube, because of, he had a whole series called, what was it? It wasn't Ridiculousness. It was
Hilariosity.
Hilariosity. I remember watching his Twilight ones on Hilariosity and, making fun of those movies and stuff. And they got a lot of numbers. So I think, and I do agree with you in saying, like, that's why when I saw, I think I looked at your video and I was like, why is he talking about this again? I was confused because I'm like, I thought he already told everyone he wasn't going to.
I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Grades again. Well, I remember when he was talking about getting his movie done, and he said he was going to try to only highlight the films he liked, or it was either highlight the films he liked, and or he wasn't going to give like really low grades anymore. I think he was getting rid of D's and F's or something. like it was going from A. Like he used to give grades. I don't know if he does anymore. But he was talking about getting rid of some of the grades and not being as harsh because he had gone through film, and he realized how hard it was, and he didn't want to like da-da-da. So when I saw that, I was like, he said it again, like, or is this just now catching on that he said that he was going to be,
I blame my patrons because I was a dancing monkey. I had I wasn't planning on discussing it at all. And then, well, money talks, and
well,
I'm not too big to dance.
It's a good topic though, because I think it segues into. I mean, there's a crisis in a lot of industries, but there's also something of an existential crisis when it comes to what it means to be a reviewer and be a critic, and people's intentions in terms of where they want to go with it. So how you view or deem their reviews and stuff, because it was funny, y'all just said earlier, separate the art from the artist or whatever. But honestly, in this day and age, with certain critics and reviewers, you can look on their social media and the selfies and things like that they take, and you kind of have to start wondering, well, did they really like this movie, or do they just want to be in the room? You can't separate it out. You have to look at the whole package of how they relate to the industry as a whole,
I stopped considering, with all due respect, Chauncey, I stopped considering Rotten Tomatoes as like a proper critic score, because I've seen some of the names that they've officially granted, and it's just like,
opposite.
No,
me,
no. There's people that I know, and I wouldn't trust them to point me down the same road I'm on. So
why would I trust you? No, and this is the thing. As someone who, and that's why I was saying earlier, just there's been controversies around these critics awards and everything, and people have been paying attention to that. As someone who, for a bit of time, was kind of more in the mix of all of that, and seeing what I saw and behind it and things like that, I can tell I tell you, it's with a grain of salt. And a lot of that is people kind of just living vicariously, wanting to be in rooms with people that are their faves more than the merit of it, unfortunately. And that's why I say, for followers, viewers, and things like that, go with someone, right? Go with someone you trust, you like them, you see their whole package, and you trust what they have to say. And that's all you can go by until you can't trust them. Because this idea of like the Critics' Choice or whoever else or whatever, looking at their stuff, it is questionable how they vote and what influences votes and things like that. And it's a weird situation, especially in this day and age where some people have other reviews, critics, where others have intentions to not necessarily stay critics. It used to be a thing. Also, everything's connected, right? Right now, journalism in and of itself is in a crisis. Trying to be a writer with a staff job can be in crisis depending on what outlet you're in. And it used to be a thing of, okay, if I can do this well enough, I could be like Roger Ebert and stay at the Sun for most of my career and also have an ABC show. But like, that's my main thing, A lot of them, that doesn't pay the bills alone. Stuckmann got to start this 10 years ago. That's why it's almost kind of like grandfathered in to be able to do that kind of work full time as just a critic, So I don't fault him for that. I just think everyone whatever you look at, you have to look at the whole thing of what they're trying to do.
Yeah, something I brought up in that video was when I did my roast of Chris Stuckmann, he was a really good sport about it. I don't know if he...
Oh, did he? He responded?
Yeah, he commented. I highlighted it in the video.
Oh, that's awesome.
He says, thanks for taking me down a peg or something like that. It was really awesome of him to do that. But, one of the jokes was he's a film critic, but didn't go to film school until 9 years into his critic career. And I forgot what the joke was. I abandoned it. But there's something to that I feel like, how important do you feel credentials are when it comes to, I guess I'll avoid film criticism, but how much do you trust a critic when, I was brought up in, there was a term called dress for the job you want, not the job you have, which Stuckmann eventually did. He went to film school. I'd like to know that the person that I said it in the stream. I don't know why I'm having such a hard time doing this. There's movie reviewers on YouTube and
Mhm.
film critics, and I think they're two very different things. I feel like film critics have the technical aspect, and if there's merit to criticizing a film, whereas some of these movie reviewers are social media personalities first, and their popularity kind of gets them in the door in some places, and I don't know if I would trust that person's opinion as a critic. Am I?
Well, the best
on an
YouTube
island with
review
that?
ever was Logan Paul reviewing not Us last year, Nope last year with I don't guys you remember that Twitter thread. That was a fun one.
Do you mean the guy from the terrible Airplane ripoff? That Logan Paul?
I like how that's what you know him from. That's amazing.
Sorry.
No shade to Logan Paul. No unnecessary shade to Logan Paul.
Yeah, throw me money. I'll say great things about it.
He's a great
I'm no
wrestler.
hypocrite.
I've heard that. Yeah, he's about to like box.
Oh, wait,
what's
I
his
thought he was
face?
No, that's Jake Paul.
Oh, it's
Logan
Jake Paul.
Paul
Yeah,
is
yeah.
the talented one out of the two.
Another one looks
And he's
good
a
and
really
tight.
good. He's a really good wrestler for those WWE fans.
Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Sold out last WrestleMania off a ladder, I think it was, right?
Yeah.
That's cool.
I think it depends, I mean, for me, I didn't go to film school. I do have a theater degree. And I think that's one of the reasons why when it comes to my criticisms, I focus on story and character development and acting a bit more in that sense. I focus in on the stuff that I've studied, stuff that I know. If I can tell, like when I can say, oh, this story fell apart in the third act, because I have a degree in knowing how to write a play and knowing how to write a screen,
A novel
like
idea.
That. Yeah. So it's like, I do think to a certain degree, yes, but I also know that some of the first critics and stuff, there was no film school and things, right? Like they just decided someone needs to start talking about this, and we watch it enough. Let's see if we can start talking about it. So, I mean, I think it can be either or. I think it goes back to intention, right? It's like if someone who maybe couldn't afford going to film school or something like that, but they took the time, they watch a lot of films, and not just the films that they like, but films that they think are important for cinema and things like that. And they do their due diligence to really try to, and they have the intention of going into it to improve cinema or give constructive criticism, whether they have a degree or not. I think they can be fine. I think what happens is, and it can be, you got people who go to film school and they still are hacks. There are people they can stay because their intentions aren't good. Their intentions are simply to either become popular themselves, to be on stage with certain people, to host a panel all the time or whatever, things like that.
Leave me out of this.
But like you have those types, and those can be people who are well-read and educated. So I think it really goes back to intention. But I do agree that there are some people who both of those things are negative. They aren't educated and their intentions are crap. Right. And so what you get is people who are masquerading as critics and reviewers who really is just about content for them. It's content first. It's not about serving the viewer or their listener to tell them something.
I think that was my issue with Stuckmann having a pseudo clickbait Madam Web review. Like it I don't know. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I meant.
Oh no, I agree with you, and I do think it's kind of, I get why he did it, because so many people were ragging on Madam Web that it was probably his way of saying, "Here's my Madam Web review." Actually, no, guys, I'm not going to be one of those people that pile on. And maybe in some way he wanted brownie points in the industry, not the critics industry, but in the film industry. Like, this guy's good. Maybe we'll take another look at that pitch he sent us. It could be all types of things. But he also got to pay his rent, or his mortgage. So of course he's gonna try to put out videos that he wants people to click on. Because I did, ever since he made that first announcement, I did look at his numbers, and some of his numbers aren't as high as they used to be for some of his other stuff. I mean, they're still really good,
I'll take them.
It's all relative.
They're still very good, but in terms of like, he used to be able to get like 500K on a video, and given how many subscribers and stuff he has, it started kind of hovering around like 100, 200 and everything. And I think a part of that was because he wasn't doing the thing of people being able to check out his video knowing he was going to rag on the obvious. Because some people, they like echo chambers too. There's a lot of people who watch some of these guys and women who review or whatever because they want to watch you rag on something they already hate.
Yep.
And if you're choosing not to do that, they don't want to hang out with you anymore. They go to the next angry reviewer that they can watch who's going to rag on what they like,
Yeah. I think my main thing for YouTubers is like, what do they focus on? Like, what's the first thing that they like when they're talking about a movie? What's the first thing that they talk about? Like, is it cinematography? Is it acting? Or are they trying to be cleverer than the movie? That's what I'm trying to say. When I feel like when a reviewer is trying to be more out clever the movie, that's what kind of starts bothering me these days. You know what I mean? When it's like focusing on like the little nitpicks and things like that, and trying to like outsmart the story and things. Does that make sense? Do you guys get what I mean?
Losing the essence of the film. Yeah.
Or when they say something like, "I saw that coming a mile away." Good for you. Like, it's not about you seeing, like, you literally watch 10 movies a week. What about the person who watches one every 2 weeks? It's like, it's not about you. A lot of them center themselves. And that's why a lot of them have either they morph into bad critics or they're already from jump bad critics because they can't get their head out of their own butt to see the merit of a film that maybe wasn't appealing to them specifically. And you get that a lot too. Like, oh, who was this movie made for? Not me. So therefore it's an F. Like MCU. Like, okay, like it's not about you.
Every time someone says MCU, a kitten dies somewhere. I'm sorry. Like it only seriously says it. As a joke, it's one thing, but seriously says it a kitten.
I think that the two things that kind of turn me off are one where the social media creator puts themselves above the film that they're talking about and are criticizing it. Like, you're not a star of the movie. Just tell us what you liked and disliked. And then there's the other end, the poser who tries to act like, I didn't like the sound design because like, all right, explain why.
Exactly.
Tony Chappie, D9 Neil Blomkamp fan, $2.
That's a hell of
Thank
a name.
you.
Yeah, okay.
Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritics are both aggregate sites, so it's they both take scores and aggregate them. They're just different versions of the same thing.
From my understanding, Metacritics, they're a little snobbier, right? Like, it would seem like when you have Rotten Tomatoes scores, the Metacritic scores is always lower. That's what I always notice. Like, between the two, Metacritic seem to be their scores seem to be a little harsher.
Well, they don't consider the fan numbers, and they do count classic media, print.
Okay.
So that's some stuff that you won't see on the internet is considering that. I mean, I don't know.
Oh, that's interesting just by itself. The fact that it's not all just random people on the internet doing it. Again, that's not to throw shade at Rotten Tomatoes, but whenever an audience score, it generally doesn't mean a lot to me because you could just make 1,000 accounts and go in and just It's like IMDb, like and no shade to IMDb. It's a great site, but it's really easy to juice the numbers on this movie or that movie, just depending on how many fake emails you're willing to have.
All you have to do is click on the reviews, and if there's nothing but 5 stars and 1 star, you're like, all right, this is slanted. That's why I like Letterboxd, because people don't really try to be impressive with their rankings. You just hear what they feel about a movie, and that's just movie fans. So it's not quite. I mean, everybody's together, so you get that Rotten Tomatoes blend that people are always talking about.
Letterboxd is cool. I like Letterboxd.
I enjoy it. But yeah, they're both aggregate. Easy for you to say. Aggregate sites. So they're the same thing but different. And Chauncey kind of deciphered their differences. But yeah, I think you talked about it, Chauncey. I feel like there's a large part of YouTube viewers that don't want to watch, I enjoyed this. They seem to swarm to like hate and like you said, angry reviewers, and dunking on something. And I wouldn't call those people film fans. I mean, I've spoken to people that have outright said things like, I watch this to see what the problems are, and it's like,
excuse me,
do you really enjoy this process? Because it doesn't seems like you're thinking about what would entertain an audience for your video, and not
it's content first.
Right, exactly.
It's content first versus, and I think but this is the thing. A lot of people are slaves to the algorithm monster, as I call it. It's not so much. Some of them, I mean, a lot of people start off with good intentions. And then it's like, well, if I want to get some attention on this video, I've got to have a thumbnail that's like, like, I can't be like, no one's clicking on this.
Oh, you enjoyed that? I don't care.
Okay, who cares? But it's like, everyone's, why do they look like that?
Yeah.
And it's like, people love that kind of thing. It's the same. I remember when I did a story on Facebook, and I was explaining, I was digging into Facebook's, influence on the last elections and things like that, the ones before the last ones. And some of the things in terms of the echo chambers that they kind of encourage, and one of the things that, Facebook and a lot of these social media sites say is we're only giving people what they want. This is what you click on. It's basically saying, like, you click on things like this. So we show you more of the things you click on. And if enough people are clicking on hate watch type stuff, the algorithm keeps showing that, because they're like, that's what the people want. So they're not going to show this was a good movie. Like, they're not showing that. It's the extremities, And so, unfortunately, that's another thing that taints true criticism. True film criticism is in peril, just like journalism is in peril, because we are in a position right now where a lot of the social media sites are the ones being able to control narratives. And it sucks. It used to be a time where you could buy something and you'd buy your New York Times or whatever, and you had the person you read and you read their column. They weren't slaves to the algorithm, because it was just like, got to sell the paper and this person's always going to be here. Nowadays, it's like, I can have a really good review, but no one might see it because YouTube doesn't want to show that video, because I don't have my thumbs down and my tongue out or something, and it sucks, because what happens is, one, certain films don't ever get reviewed that much, because it's always about the film that's out and everyone's talking about. So you have thousands of videos about Madam Web and nothing about this other thing, because everyone wants to get in on hating on Madam Web. So, I mean, not to sound bleak, but it's just not a very good terrain for real, like, dialogue and criticism at this point. It's dying because the algorithm is being allowed to choose for people. And at that same time, people are choosing the content over merit, so it's kind of a double-edged sword. Right.
It's kind of funny too how it's like kind of driving us back into, I don't want to say the dark ages, but like I remember when I first started doing YouTube, all my videos were like super negative and stuff like that, because that was the thing to do, like put out your negative reviews about stuff. But then, like, I kind of got bored of that, and other people started getting bored of that, and then we started getting things like, instead of cinema sins, we have cinema wins, and like other things like that started kind of going more for the positivity. But now the algorithm is driving everything towards the negativity. So it's like,
I think cinema sins, I forgot, I'm paraphrasing somebody else's definition of the culture that cinema sins started. It was
quote me right, or don't quote me, CP.
No, it's not you. And it's not me. Just keep that in mind. Somebody said that, because of cinema sins, and since cinema sins, there are these successful, hate reviewers that approach art and filmmaking with this autistic lens. And I needed like a clarification of what that meant. And apparently, stereotypically, they're not concerned with the emotion or like the spirit of a movie. It's just, this wouldn't happen in real life because I don't believe it. And like, here's an hour on why I would not buy this.
CinemaSins is, I used to be a huge fan of them, but they're also a perfect example of the trying to out clever the movie. They're trying to be smarter, and like they think, and it's just like, that's just not fun to watch after a while,
right?
Ever. Like,
and it's a cute gimmick. Like,
yeah,
it was a joke at first. Like, yeah, look at all these silly things. Like, yeah, okay, but people have taken that and gotten a little, it's a little Godzilla now with that little seed. Mm-hmm. And I still don't understand the technicality of that description, but I think I understand it. But
go ahead.
No. I was just going to double down on my thing. It's like them, nostalgia critic, screen junkies. Sometimes, or screen junkies can be very positive sometimes too. So I don't want to completely wrap them up in the negative. They really pioneered the being red letter media in a way, but then again, they also like to be really positive sometimes too. So they really pioneered the being negative on YouTube for clicks thing. That kind of.
But the thing about red letter media, those Plinkett videos, people really forget that. Blended in with all that criticism of the Star Wars prequels was explaining why the film doesn't work. Yeah, there's a lot of film jargon in those reviews, and people just forget that. It's really fascinating that people will use red letter media as like a blueprint for whatever the critical drinker is now, and it's like, I don't know if I'd put those two in the same category, because like the thing about those Plinkett videos is they're their own little character and their own little thing within the review, and it's really fascinating. But that the film aspects of those reviews always gets lost, and it's really, really interesting.
No, I get what you mean. Like as Mr. Plinkett is definitely a character that
sure.
I can't remember the guy's name that he puts on.
Mike Stoklasa.
Thank you.
I mean, I don't know.
I don't know how to pronounce that, so I'm glad you said it and not me.
I'm not a fan.
But then you have the critical drinker who, like, he's kind of doing a character, but he's also just kind of just doing himself with a silly voice at the end of the day.
Well, yeah, if you kept an eye on him recently, he's cashing in all that character that he's doing.
Oh, is he really? Oh, well, good for him.
Yeah, I don't know what he's doing on Russell Brand's show, but okay.
Well, come on. That's the
I mean,
pipeline.
I know.
That's the pipeline for many of them. When they get super negative, especially what's popular right now to be super negative about, they go down the pipeline of where they end up at. I don't know. It's really weird because I think in some sense, I feel like social media democratized giving people a chance who might not have already been at the Times or something like that. So people got to hear their viewpoints, people who were totally capable of giving those viewpoints. But in another sense, I think it's also, like I said, it's people are slaves to the algorithm, unfortunately, to be popular. And it's like, it really does. One could argue, I feel like the algorithm really tapers down true creativity because, unless you can get people to bite on it, it's like it gets lost and you're like, well, I got to pay rent. So I got to do the thing that, I remember when I had first started the YouTube channel I had, and it was like, my first videos were like maybe 20 minutes. I was really getting into stuff. And then I was hearing, it got to be like 10 minutes or shorter. And I'm like, okay, so I got to do 10 minutes or shorter. And I need a really descriptive thumbnail. Okay.
SEO and all that.
Yes.
Shit.
And then I heard, okay, wait a minute. You don't want to sit too long talking about this. Give people about 5 or 6 minutes and then you're good for a thing. And I was just like, oh my God, it just keeps getting shorter and shorter.
Guys, we have YouTube Shorts. Make it under a minute.
And now we have YouTube Shorts. And people don't pay attention to that because they think the algorithm is simply, the way they explain the algorithm to people is simply, we're just giving people what they want. The algorithm just points people into the direction of what they already are watching. That's BS. Part of it is that, but the other part is these tech people are saying this is what we want to be the next big thing.
TikTok.
Exactly. And so we want the trends and we want the videos to start reflecting that, or we will not give them. It's almost, I don't know how you call it, like a behavior modification type thing, where it's like, or social engineering. It's
Pavlov's
like,
dog.
here's a treat. here's a treat for this kind of video, no treat for this kind of video. And everyone sees everyone getting a treat for that video. So everyone starts doing that video. But someone had to decide, start giving treats for this video because these are the videos we want made. Yeah. It's not just out of nowhere. This is what people are into. That's not how these social media sites work. It's not just this is what people are into. They've decided what they want people to be into.
And it's like you said, the tech companies. Where are we getting our sponsors and money from?
Yeah, it's really the same reason why horror is very hard to do well on algorithms and stuff because it's not just because someone in that office is queasy about blood or something. It's because they can't put soap commercials on that. They can't put soap commercials. They can't go to Ajax and be like, show the duck being cleaned of oil after this person gets beheaded. They can't do that. So what do they push? They push the kind of stuff, even because we know horror has an audience.
Yeah, I know.
But they're like, it's not an audience that these companies want to sell to. They can't put their products on there. So, it's the other people that get, it's a weird thing.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's interesting.
No comment, Troy.
That's funny.
Yeah, we've gone quite a bit. Had I known, I would have just devoted the episode to all this because it's a fascinating thing, and I don't think anybody's really wrong. I mean, people are going to watch what they're going to watch, and if it's got a big enough audience, does that take anything away from it? I guess is the long and short of it. I just feel like to judge something is kind of getting lost in popularity and not merit. And I don't think those are synonymous, popularity and merit. I really don't.
Well, it's also like the people that can crank things out like stupidly fast. But then there's like I don't know if you guys followed the YouTube drama at the end of last year about a bunch of YouTube plagiarisms that got called out.
The H bomber guy video.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I saw that thing with that Illuminati woman or whatever.
Yes. She was in it too.
I used to be a fan of. I'm not ashamed to say I used to watch Illuminati because I thought that, hey, I like random funny stories about stuff. I'm down for that kind of thing, and so I liked some of her stuff. But then to find out that she's basically just word for word copying Fire Festival documentaries from Netflix is like, oh
yeah.
But sorry. But the point I'm trying to get to is the algorithm rewards that kind of stuff because you're able to churn things out every couple of days because you're not actually doing anything.
You're not writing anything, right?
Things that other people did. Yeah.
It's hard. And I mean, so much stuff isn't, I say crisis. What I mean is a metamorphosis. Like whatever it's going to be, it's changing. It'll land somewhere. It might not be what we're used to. It's the same thing with cinema. It's like everyone doesn't want to go to the theater and people have been trying to fight it. But it may be a thing where home theater is the new king to a certain degree based off of people are going to theater, but it takes a little bit more,
They're hurting. COVID really screwed up the theater industry.
And that may be something that's not really a go back to sort of situation. It just maybe this is the new thing. And I think that's the same thing with journalism. I also think it's the same thing with film criticism. I think if people really want real criticism, they need to find someone they like, and they need to just hope they keep putting out the kind of reviews they can pay attention to, because the terrain as a whole just really isn't there anymore for people to really get a stronghold in criticism and stuff. One, because it's oversaturated. So you have a lot of people who are making a lot of noise who do get the attention, but the ones who might have a little bit better merit don't get that attention because they're not doing clickbait stuff. And so they can't do this full time. So they do other stuff. So you don't get consistent stuff from them. It's hard. And I think whatever it's going to look like, it's not going to look like this. I think this is a cesspool. I think YouTube is
metamorphosis sounded good. Cesspool, maybe less so.
Accurate though.
I think it's a little bit of a cesspool. I think people need to go other places to find legitimate, like their outlet for who they trust. I mean, you can find your person on here, but they might end up putting some stuff on a website or a Patreon or whatever, because it's hard to be able to do this and make a living.
Yeah. I mean, if you're a true film fan and there's someone that reviews movies and you find yourself aligning with their view, this guy really has the same taste I do. Well, of course, we'll keep watching that guy and get recommendations from that guy. I think the fact the fandom of all of it really gets lost in, like you said, Chauncey, the content angle of it, where here's a movie that I could shit on for 45 minutes, like that.
Part.
Yeah, that's not fandom. It's not born in anything, a love for anything. It's I don't know.
Yeah, I'm one of those people. People have been like, "Oh, you should watch this," and I'd be like, "I know I'm gonna hate that film," or I've already paid attention to the person people I pay attention to, and they say, "Hey, why am I gonna waste 2 hours of my life or an hour and a half of my life watching something?" Now there have been times I've watched something I've been pleasantly surprised.
I love when that happens.
And that can be good, but that's usually because someone told me, "Hey, you might actually like this. Give it a shot." Now, if everyone's telling me, "No, this is crap, but you should watch it anyway," I'm very much against hate watching stuff. You know, absolutely. I don't tend to do that. And so that puts me in a position where there's just certain things, certain conversations on the internet I'm not going to be a part of, but that's where I got to be to get those clicks. Like, it's...
I love when I'm wrong. Like when I look at a trailer or like a crew with the director of the movie, I'm like, oh, that looks terrible. And then I sit down and watch. I'm like, oh my god, I love this. That's like the best feeling in the world. Like, what was the last movie I did that with? It was I'm the only one who liked it too. That last Resident Evil movie.
I loved it.
I liked it.
Oh, cool. Okay. Oh, yeah. Good company. Heck yeah. I loved that movie. I went in with zero expectations. I thought I was gonna hate it. I'm like, this is amazing. I
think RE fans were in a really bad position because there's a lot of people who hate on everything that's RE because they're gatekeepers, and that's why we don't get nice things. That's why the Netflix show got canceled. That's why they didn't do a sequel for that movie, because they're the loudest ones. No one listens to the silent majority going and giving it money and views.
You know, actually, I wasn't a big fan of the Netflix Resident Evil, but I did love Lance Hendrick. He was so good in that, and they could not have done a second season without him. So I totally get why that's not happening. But yeah, that dude was fucking phenomenal, man.
Well, I mean, if you think about the
Lance
Anderson...
Reddick. What did I say? Lance Hendricks? Lance Reddick. That's his name.
Yeah.
Well, I think I referenced the guy from Aliens on accident.
He can't.
What?
They can't make another movie. They can't go forward. Lance Reddick passed.
Yeah. That's
why. I think it got canceled before he passed, though. But yeah.
Oh, did it?
Okay. Because people, but that's the thing. People didn't give it a chance at all. Some of them, you know, they were like, "This is an hour," you know, and it's like, what do you mean? How many different versions of this thing is there? You know, so I just think we're at a time where, it's really weird when you're in the middle of influx and like change, because it's hard to see the forest for the trees. And I think we happen to be in the midst of, I mean, TikTok might be banned. I mean, there's just so many changes going on right now. No one's going to the movies. There's a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah.
I don't know what this terrain's going to look like. I think we're all, funny enough, I think everyone's going to have to go back to their own websites. Like,
oh my God. Is Blip TV going to make a comeback?
Right? It's going to be people having to go to their own things again. Could you imagine? Because the algorithm just makes it so no one can find you. So you got to tell people, go to my website. Yeah, we're back to people having to go to your website.
Actually, that's hilarious. I'm a big fan of Mr. Sunday Movies, and a lot of their stuff is on their website, bigsandwich.co. I hadn't even thought about that. Yeah, you're right. We are basically there now.
Yeah, a friend of the channel, Luke from Razorwire, he does things for Joe Blow every now and again. And because I watch his videos, I get suggested Joe Blow movies, and they have some incredible clickbait stuff where it's, what happened to insert movie name here? And it's like, it's been 30 years. Nothing happened to it. It's just, what do you mean what happened to it? I mean, it gets clicks. They keep suggesting that shit to me. So what the hell do I know? But I just answer like, what do you mean what happened to it? Nothing happened. We got older.
You fell for it, CP. The clickbait got you.
I didn't watch it. I just, as I'm cruising past, I'm like, what? All right. So we've gone over 2 hours. I don't know when we'll be back again, but
Tomorrow.
You might be back. I don't know if I'm.
No, this is the Daily Show now, guys. It's the new Daily Show. Okay.
Lindsay, why don't you talk about what you got coming up?
Also, I've been experimenting with YouTube Shorts a little bit recently, and I've actually been having a lot of fun with it. I hate the format, like the vertical thing of it, but that also kind of makes me like, it kind of gives me like that spark of imagination. You know what I mean? It's like, okay, so I can approach, to make this footage look good, I need to do this with it, or I need to do this with it. So I don't know, that I'm kind of enjoying that like experimentation with the new format. We'll see if I keep doing it or not. The numbers, like the shorts themselves, are getting really good numbers compared to my other stuff.
Don't feed into the vertical narrative.
Oh, no, 100%. And I know it's like pennies for absolute pennies is the money you make on them. But
revert to King Shark stuff. How about that? I know I wasn't a supporter of that type of mentality, but go do that rather than the vertical stuff.
Can I actually give a funny King Shark story real quick?
Do you have any other ones?
Yeah, apparently not. No, so my King Shark stuff it's like years old now at this point, and it wasn't getting a whole lot of views, as it shouldn't. It's 3 or 4 years old now, and it's not good. Why do people watch it? But then I made a YouTube short that was a King Shark joke because of that Suicide Squad game that just came out. And all the videos are now getting stupidly good views again. It's like these videos are 4 years old. Why are people watching this hundreds of times a day? Oh, are we good?
I don't know. Chauncey's asked if she froze, and it looked like now she's froze. No, she's here. Sorry.
I don't know.
I think I froze. I think I froze.
Oh, okay.
Sorry about that.
No, but the long story short is I made a King Shark short. Now all my old videos are getting views again for some reason. So yay!
There you go. The algorithm doing its job.
I guess.
Chauncey.
Production Tales from Hell had its first episode on the Dead Meat channel.
A very good first episode.
Yeah, thank you. And it's already gotten over 100,000 views. Woo! So that's really cool. And people have gotten really great feedback with it. And we're also partnering with WeTransfer. WeTransfer is our partner for the whole entire season of Production Tales from Hell. And what's really cool is that I was able to do a magazine for WeTransfer, where what you can do, it's a companion piece to the show. And it's a magazine that you can download for free on the WeTransfer website. And we've actually worked with artists who have worked with the Criterion Collection and things like that, who did reimaginations of the movies that we'll be covering. So one, it's a way that you can get a glimpse of the movies that are going to be on for this 5 episode season. And you can get some additional behind the scenes writings in terms of the movies that I'm covering from me. And then in James's corner, which is also featured in the magazine, he is focusing on the special effects of each film, like special things that weren't covered in each episode. So it's really cool. The posters are amazing because they're done by such amazing artists. And the renditions they've done of each of those movies is just amazing.
Criterion doesn't mess around. They're really good.
No, the Criterion. I mean, I was so shocked when the guy from the Criterion Collection was like, "Yes, I will do your magazine." I was like, "Oh my gosh, thank you." So that's happening, and so the next episode is this Sunday, and I will be covering Troll 2.
Oh hell yeah!
Which is
Criterion working on Troll 2. Everything's
one of the best worst films ever, and all the production hell that's surrounding that. So people can check that out. So it's that's episode 2 that'll be happening this Sunday over on the Did Meat channel. Amazing. And I'm doing a lot of my other content, like my social media content, over on Instagram now, like in terms of lives and posts and just kind of keeping in the day-to-day. So if you want to follow me over there, you totally can and should.
Yeah.
Mealbog is gobbling backwards.
My phone does not agree with the artist formerly known as Twitter. So yeah.
Right. Yeah.
A lot of our private discussions were not happening because I couldn't get to X. So yeah, it's good to hear everybody's over on Instagram. not for an audience. I apologize. Let me just double check. Okay. So I know that Fuego was talking about joining us. I know the time swap might have affected him not being here, but and again, I don't expect this to be a weekly thing again, but we're here. I know people are checking in every now and again. We're here. It's just not much to discuss as far as show business is concerned. It's been a very bleak 6 months before Dune finally hit, and the strikes really didn't make for good chat. So
also the whole thing about, do we want to support the movies that are like, part of the that they're getting struck right now?
The scabs,
Obviously, it's different to review a movie than it is to work on a movie, but still, it's a solidarity. Support unions.
Yes, and thank you to those of you in the chat who were here the whole time. Thank you for those who did super chats. Thank you for the 2 new members. We appreciate it, and I don't know when we'll be back, but just keep an eye out. Subscribe to Twisted Woman CKR. My 2 cents of nonsense, and obviously Infuegotainment and WILIscredia here. And just, keep an eye out, and I'll try to give you guys as much notice as possible if an episode is scheduled. What's up, Lindsay?
So I'm just playing with my lights.
I thought this was, I have something to say. All right,
I'm just now noticing you can see one of my lights in the background there. So is it this light or is it this
too
light?
late now, buddy? All right. So for Chauncey, Lindsay, I am Charlie Boy. Have a good night. Thank you to all of you.